Matthew Evans sat quietly in his silver Mercedes, parked just outside the gates of the most prestigious country club in the city. His fingers tapped a restless rhythm on the steering wheel, the air conditioner blowing full blast, but still not enough to cool the weight of nerves pressing against his chest. At 78 years old, Matthew was no stranger to wealth, no stranger to status, but he had always carried himself with humility. He had spent decades working, saving, building a fortune quietly while raising a family that meant more to him than all the numbers in his bank account. But today, as he sat in that car, waiting for the valet to wave him forward, a pit of unease twisted in his stomach. He knew this club. He knew its reputation. A place where billionaires mingled and whispered, where people wore arrogance like jewelry, and where one's worth wasn't measured in kindness or character, but in power, influence, and appearances. He was here because of his son, David. David had insisted. "Come with me, Dad," he had said earlier that week. "Let me introduce you to my world. I want you there." And Matthew, though hesitant, had agreed. He wanted to be present for his son, even if it meant stepping into a place where he might not feel welcome. The line of luxury cars inched forward, one by one greeted by young men in sharp uniforms who rushed to open doors, to smile, to bow slightly as if each guest stepping out was royalty. The sound of engines purred Bentleys, Rolls Royces, Porsches, all symbols of excess lined up like trophies, and then, just ahead of Matthew, a sleek black Bentley slid into place. The valet practically sprinted to open the door, almost tripping in his eagerness. Out stepped Henry Whitmore. Even at a distance, Matthew recognized him. Everyone did. Henry was the kind of man who didn't need introduction. His face was plastered across business magazines. His name floated in political circles. His empire stretched across continents, oil, real estate, investments. His silver hair was slicked perfectly back, his tailored suit cut sharp enough to look dangerous. He exuded a kind of confidence that bordered on arrogance, the kind that said the world itself bent at his command. Behind him came his wife, Lydia. Diamonds glistened from her neck, her wrists, her fingers. Her laugh was loud, intentional, carrying across the courtyard like she wanted the world to know she had arrived. Their daughter, Clarissa, followed, eyes glued to her phone, not sparing a glance at anyone around her. The Whitmores didn't walk. They floated. They didn't arrive. They owned up. Matthew exhaled slowly, gripping his cane tightly. He had worked his entire life for stability, for dignity, for respect. And yet, sitting there, he already felt small compared to the towering presence of the Whitmores. When his turn finally came, the valet jogged forward, opened the door, and offered a hand. Matthew stepped out carefully, his cane steady, his jacket neatly pressed. For a brief second, he thought maybe this wouldn't be so bad. Maybe he could hold his head high and walk forward with the pride he had earned over a lifetime. But then Lydia's voice, sharp and cruel, cut through the air. "Oh, look," she said, her tone dripping with disdain, loud enough for every ear nearby. "They're letting just anyone in these days." The words struck like a whip. A few bystanders smirked. Some chuckled quietly. Others pretended not to hear, but their eyes lingered, their silence louder than any laugh. Matthew froze. The sting of humiliation burned deep in his chest. His first instinct was to retreat, to get back into his car and drive away before the whispers spread further. But something inside him refused. He had been many things in his life, but he was not weak. He would not give them the satisfaction of watching him break. So he stood there, shoulders back, chin up, hands trembling ever so slightly on his cane. The Whitmores swept past him without another glance, their laughter echoing in the polished courtyard. The moment hung heavy, awkward, suffocating. Matthew could feel the weight of eyes on him, judging, dismissing, daring him to move. And then another sound cut through the tension. A low, commanding engine, a black Cadillac Escalade, rolled to the gate. Sleek, powerful, tinted windows reflecting the sunlight like armor. The valet's entire posture changed. His back straightened, his steps sharper, as if he already knew that whoever sat inside was someone important. The door opened. And out stepped David Evans. Tall, sharp, commanding. He wore a navy suit, tailored to perfection. His stride steady, confident, each step announcing authority. Conversations hushed as eyes turned toward him. His very presence shifted the energy in the air. What most didn't realize, what the Whitmores themselves didn't realize, was that David wasn't just another wealthy club guest. He was one of the most powerful CEOs in the country, the head of a global tech empire worth billions. He was the kind of man who made decisions that shaped markets, who signed deals that shifted entire industries. And right now, David was on the verge of finalizing a $900 million deal. A deal with none other than Henry Whitmore's corporation. David's eyes scanned the courtyard. First, they found his father standing tall but wounded, the humiliation still fresh in his expression. Then his gaze swept to the Whitmores, whose arrogance was still plastered across their faces. His jaw tightened. Without hesitation, David strode forward, his presence alone commanding silence. He placed a steady hand on his father's shoulder, grounding him, before turning his attention fully to Henry and Lydia. "I assume," David said, his voice even, controlled, but carrying the weight of steel. "This is how you treat potential business partners?" The air shifted. A hush fell over the crowd. Henry blinked, caught off guard. Lydia's smirk faltered. Clarissa finally looked up from her phone, frowning. David's words cut deeper with every syllable. "I came here today prepared to finalize a deal worth nearly $1 billion. But if this," his eyes flicked to his father, then back to Lydia, "is the kind of contempt you show my family, then I see no reason to continue." Gasps rippled through the courtyard. Whispers surged like wildfire. The weight of his words pressed heavy on every ear present. Henry tried to recover, his arrogance cracking. "Now, wait just a moment. This is a misunderstanding." But David raised a hand, dismissive, cutting him off mid-sentence. "Respect is not negotiable," he said firmly. "If you cannot offer it, you will not have my partnership." Silence, heavy, absolute. Then David turned to his father, his tone softening. "Come on, Dad. We don't waste our time with people who can't see beyond a bank account." The driver stepped forward, opened the Cadillac's door. Matthew slid inside, still processing what had just unfolded. Still stunned by his son's strength, David followed, the door shutting with finality. And the Escalade rolled away, leaving behind silence and shock in its wake. The Whitmores stood frozen, their laughter gone. Their confidence cracked around them. The whispers grew louder. Everyone had seen it. Everyone had heard it. By the next morning, the story had exploded. Headlines blared. CEO cancels $900. Million deal after mother humiliated at country club. Whitmore's face backlash over disrespect scandal. Power shift, tech titan walks away from billion-dollar partnership. Investors panicked. Stock prices wavered. Partnerships that once seemed untouchable began to crumble. The Whitmores, once untouchable titans, suddenly found themselves on shaky ground, scrambling to maintain control. But for Matthew Evans, sitting quietly in the Cadillac beside his son, none of that mattered. For the first time in years, he felt a different kind of wealth. Not the kind counted in dollars or property, but the kind measured in loyalty, in respect, in the courage of a son who would not allow anyone to belittle his father. He looked at David, eyes glistening with quiet pride. And in that moment, Matthew understood something that all the money in the world could never buy. True power isn't measured by numbers. It isn't measured by wealth or by the arrogance of those who flaunt it. True power lies in respect. And in the courage to defend it. That day, the country club learned a lesson it would never forget. The Whitmores were humbled. The deal was gone, and Matthew Evans walked away with something far greater than wealth. He walked away with dignity, with pride, and with the unshakable knowledge that his son valued him more than any billion-dollar contract, and that was priceless.